Hello and welcome back to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is the series The Perfect Birthday, written by Jheqia, narrated by Dawn, myself, hello, and it is for Jheqia's Wednesday. So I hope you go and send her some love. All her information is down below in the description. Send Maku some love for the beautiful, stunning art in the thumbnail. All her information is down below. Send me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you think of it and what's going to happen next. And if you don't know what to say macaroons. Make sure you subscribe because we're in chapter 3 and there is so many other stories happening at the same time. You do not want to miss out. Okay, I hope you enjoy. Chapter 3. In My Own Shadow and Macaroons. Marinette sat quietly as Adrien's bodyguard drove them to the wax museum. She felt reassured when the big man had given her a small wink as he held the door for her. But now here she was. She was sitting next to Adrienette on his birthday, with 2 hours of intimate time and hopefully romantic presents for him, and she was a bundle of nerves. Why does it take a mask for me not to be a coward? She berated herself as the car made its way through a crowd, watching some sort of demonstration rally. Why can't I just tell him how I feel? Of course, Adrien said he was in love with another girl, and Marinette was no poacher, but wouldn't it be better if she could just get it off her chest and be done with it? Besides, he had told her that months ago, and there had been no rumours online about him having a girlfriend, so maybe it was the unrequited love he had been talking about. Well, I can relate to that feeling all too well. Coward or not, she was alone with Adrien, and she was going to do her best to enjoy it. She wanted to drink in every moment so she could relive it later, even if it ended in disaster. The now, with him sitting beside her, and how he grabbed her hand and led her to the car, was so nice. She would take nice with Adrien over never any day. The car pulled in front of the wax museum, and Adrien took her hand as he tumbled out of the car towards the door. He was forced to slow down as they entered, but she was thrilled that he seemed to forget he was holding her hand. "What do you think, Marinette?" he asked. "Would the next clue be in the workshop?" The clue said where you both pull pranks, right?" she said softly, hyper-aware of his hand wrapped around hers. "Maybe we should check where you pretended to be a statue?" "You mean where you pretended to be in love with my statue?" he whispered, leaning in close to her ear. His warm breath brushed against her blushing cheeks, and her heart pounded. Could he hear it over the crowded noise and the sound of their footsteps? As he started leading her towards the gallery, she saw him glance down at her. "The card said something about pain," he said gently. "Marinette, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings that day." She stared at him for a moment, mouth open, eyes wide. Then she hastily closed both and shook her head. Adrien was so sweet, but she knew that if she tried to tell him now that she hadn't been pranking and actually been psyching herself up to tell him that she loved him, that it would come out in one giant verbal wave of nonsense. That is how it had always happened before. Adrien sighed and seemed to relax a bit. "I'm glad. I would never want to hurt you, Marinette. I would never do it on purpose." "I know." She did know that. It was her inability to talk to him and his oblivious that hurt her the most in their relationship. They finally made their way to the gallery in question and looked around. He let go of her hand then, still tingling where his fingers had squeezed hers. "Look for a white envelope like the one you gave me," he said, looking at the statues and behind the pillars. Marinette pretended to look and took her time getting to the bench where Alia had hidden the card. The very bench where they had sat after their pranks had failed so badly. "Adrien, over here?" "Thanks, Marinette. You must have keen eyes, I suppose, to look with, huh?" Little do you know, she thought. He dashed over and looked under the bench. His smile lit up his face with sunshine as he pulled out a white envelope and a small box wrapped in green paper. Oh, that smile alone was worth all the trouble she'd gone through. Which should I open first? He asked, holding them out to her. I've never been on a scavenger hunt before. The present? She said, bouncing up and down on the balls of her feet in excitement. She knew what it was, of course. She had made it herself, but she hoped he would like it, even if he thinks Ladybug did it for him. Adrien tore the paper and opened the small box that Ladybug had left for him. Inside was an oval cloth patch the size of his palm. It had red heart on a white field with black sabres pricking the heart just right in the center. A tiny golden drop glinted at the tip, as if a drop of blood was falling and had caught the light. His eyes wide with excitement, he held it out for Marinette to see. It's a custom patch for my fencing jacket, he whispered. See, there's my saber. The bell guard is perfect, and look at the tiny drop of blood picked out in gold. A stitch to the heart, she replied softly, without her usual stutter, her fingers tracing the stitching. This is so cool, Marinette. Only the best fencers have patches like these for tournaments. How did she know? Adrien was in shock. Ladybug had gotten him the perfect gift. It showed she knew he liked fencing. Not only that, but she knew he was a saber fencer and the appropriate size for an allowed jacket patch. Ladybug had taken a personal interest in him, Adrien. That had mean she either knew him in real life or was a fan of his. Put that together with what she had told Cat Noir about loving another boy, and he was over the moon. Marinette cleared her throat nervously beside him, bringing him back to a sense of his companion and surroundings. He flushed, seeing how far his mind had wandered without her, and stuffed the precious patch deep into his pocket. He tore open the card and held out for both of them to read. To the best place in Paris, to enjoy the best view of the city skyline, and there's the next clue for you. This handwriting was Nino's. Adrien sighed with a smile. Ladybug had taken the trouble of getting his bodyguard to go along with this, and getting Marinette and Alia and Nino to help with her surprise. She must really know him well. So, what do you think the clue means? Marinette asked. He thought about it for a moment. As Cat Noir, he had been all over the city fighting Akumas and victims with Ladybug. Come to think of it, they had fought villains at both the Lock Bridge and the Wax Museum. That might be a coincidence, but could Ladybug also be trying to hint that she had figured out his secret identity? Time enough to think about that later. Marinette was right here, and he shouldn't keep her waiting. The top of the Eiffel Tower has the best view of the skyline that I know of, he said. He offered her his hand. Shall we? On the way to the tower, Adrien noticed Marinette was oddly quiet. She normally seemed to fluctuate between nervous talking and silence, around him at least. She was such a good friend, and he didn't want her to be upset about anything, but he wasn't sure if something was wrong or not. Marinette, he said, placing his hand over hers on the car seat. Is everything okay? You seem sort of sad. She froze, staring at his hand on hers for a moment and smiled shyly. Yeah, everything's fine. Are you sure? I mean, if you have somewhere else to be, I understand. He hoped she didn't. It was wonderful having her along for this crazy ride Ladybug had arranged for him. No, she objected quickly. I set the rest of the day for this. Really? Well, yeah. It's for your birthday. You deserve something extra special. Her amazing eyes opened wider, and she covered her mouth with her hands as if she said too much. She was blushing as red as her dress. That reminded him. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I forgot. he said. "You look very nice today. You should wear red more often." He drew in a breath as a smile spread across her face. This wasn't her trademark nervous smile. This was wide, full of happiness and beautiful. It filled her up and shone out of her eyes. His mouth was dry, and suddenly the silence felt weird. "You know," he said, rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment, "with those ribbons in your hair, and when you smile like that, you look a little like Ladybug." The smile faded from her face. She looked out the window. "We're here," she murmured. "Oh, cheese and crackers, I must have said the wrong thing," Adrien thought. His excitement for this day dimmed a little at her sad expression. "I will throttle Alia," Marinette thought as she and Adrien rode the elevator to the top of the Eiffel Tower. Alia had written the clue Marinette was to give to Adrien on the bridge and hidden the present and card under the bench at the wax museum. "Ugh, that girl is pushing things, and she isn't even here." Adrien had noticed she was sad and had tried to cheer her up, but then he did the one thing that hurt her the most. He compared her to Ladybug. Of course he has a crush on Ladybug. Why wouldn't he? She is brave, smart, and always saves the day. But underneath the mask, she is still me. She couldn't tell him that, of course, but it still hurt. She knew that Cat Noir wanted people to like him with the mask because it gave him the freedom to be his real, weird, unpresented self. She wanted people to like her without the mask because she was her real self. She was fashion designer, macaroons, friendship and clumsiness, problem solver and a walking disaster. She desperately wanted Adrien to like her for herself, the girl who had been his friend and who secretly loved him. Is it possible to be jealous of yourself? Ladybug gets the credit for the gifts, the party, and the planning, and I get friend-zoned again. The worst part is that I'm being overshadowed by my alter ego. Even if I could get the words out, Adrien wouldn't believe me at this point. Between this boy and her struggles to balance Marinette and Ladybug in her life, she was going to end up crazy before she graduated. Oh well, it makes him happy. Tiki was right. This was about Adrien having the perfect day, and she wasn't going to let her feelings of inadequacy ruin it for him. At least this time, the present is obviously from me. When they got to the top, a white envelope was taped to the rail with his name on it. Adrien stepped in front eagerly and took the card down. "There was a present with the last clue, and you gave me the rose at the bridge," he murmured, thinking. "Shouldn't there be one here too, or am I expecting too much?" Marinette felt Tiki nudge the little box out of her purse and into her hand. "Adrien?" she said quietly. When he turned to look at her, she was holding out the small box with the Dupan Chang Bakery logo on the top, in cream and gold. He looked from her to the box and then to her again. He carefully took the box from her hand and opened it. Inside, nestled in gold paper, rested 4 perfect macaroons. Adrien stared at the pastries in the box. They were delicate, golden yellow and decorated with white chocolate hearts. "They're passion fruit," Marinette stammered. "I heard you say they were your favorite, so I made some just for you." "You made these for me?" he asked wonderingly. "And you set aside the rest of your day to help celebrate my birthday?" When was the last time someone had cared for him that much? Certainly not his father or Natalie. He felt tears stinging his eyes. "No one else ever makes these, did you know? I've looked. The only time I've had them were when you brought them to school parties and things." "I know," she replied, giving him a crooked grin. "That's why I bring them." His eyes widened. "Just for me?" She nodded. He took one out of the box and bit into it. The shell was crisp, light, and slightly sweet, but the passion fruit filling burst in his mouth like a sunrise. He closed his eyes for a moment in pleasure, and if he had been transformed, he knew he would have been purring. With his mouth full of passion fruit and his heart full of gratitude, he gave Marinette a big hug. "Thank you," he whispered once he swallowed. "This is the first birthday gift I have ever gotten from a genuine friend. Well, apart from Chloe, but her present always seems to come with strings attached." She giggled and hugged him back, and he felt her relax against him in his arms. For some reason, he couldn't quite identify, that triggered a warm glow inside of him that had nothing to do with the sweets. It felt good hugging Marinette like this, but it also made him want to take care of her, to protect her. Adrien rested his face against her hair and sighed. She smelled like vanilla. Adrien, she said timidly, "I just wanted to tell you that I..." Boom! The iron grid of the platform shook beneath them. Clutching Marinette tightly to him, Adrien stiffened and jerked his head around to see dark smoke drifting up from the Rue du Dominique. At the same moment, the phone started buzzing with accumulates. "We have to get down from here," he said, grabbing her hand and pulling her towards the elevator. "I need to get you somewhere safe." "Adrien, no!" she cried as he started smashing the call button. "There are too many people. We need to take the stairs." She was right. Together they ran down to the second level, stopping to catch their breaths, when they discovered a problem. There was a bunch of tourists crowding the stairs and the elevator, pushing and shouting in panic. Marinette's hand slipped from his, and he suddenly lost sight of her in the crush. "Marinette!" he called, searching frantically for her. He tried to turn back to look for her, but the crowd was pushing him ever closer to the stairs. "Adrien?" he heard her call. "I'll meet you at the bottom." Having no choice, he let the crowd carry him down the stairs, hoping Marinette would be safe. He couldn't transform in this throng, and there was nowhere private he could slip off to. "I hope Ladybug's gonna be okay, 'cause this is gonna take a while." Thank you for listening to chapter 3 of The Perfect Birthday. Make sure you smash that like button if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think is gonna happen next in chapter 4, which is coming out next Wednesday. And subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you give all the shout outs and all the love to everyone involved. And I hope you're good, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.